Hello, I'm Paul Briley, and you're listening to Off the Comma. I'm a human who cares about supporting other humans. On this podcast, we explore all facets of what it means to feel stuck in life. We talk with people just like us who found themselves sitting on a comma and not knowing where to go next. We'll unpack the experience with them, where they've been stuck, what it feels like, what they experienced, and what they learned. My goal is to inspire you by seeing yourself in others. I believe that when we feel more connected and seen, magic can happen. And remember, if you find yourself sitting on a comma in your life, you can also talk to me without a microphone. To explore coaching with me and getting off the comma in your own life, check out my information and book a call with me at offthecomma.com. And I'm also doing something different. I'm curating my own sponsor community, local businesses and professionals who I handpick and who align with our vision here. Be sure to check them out, learn more about them on my website and my YouTube channel. In the meantime, let's get into this week's conversation. And welcome back to another exciting episode of Off the Comma. I am so grateful to be here for another week. Every week is a privilege, and this week will be no exception. And I have a tendency to ramble a lot as I kind of introduce each episode. So I'm going to keep it brief this week because my guest this week has been very gracious with me. We had to reschedule due to some conflicts and so forth. But I'm so glad we were able to find the time and be able to meet tonight to hear her story. Jalisa Hardy is our guest today, and she is another person who I will be essentially meeting for the first time during our conversation today. And I'm very excited about that. And I'm very excited to add her to our community of storytellers. As everybody who's been listening knows, this is all about hearing voices of people from all over and really kind of creating a space where not only where people can share their stories and kind of create what that creates for them in the sharing and releasing of the stories, but also for those stories to reach the ears that they need to hear and inspire the people that they need to inspire. So I guess I lied earlier when I said I wasn't going to ramble, but Jalisa, I'm going to hand it over to you for us to get into your story. Before we get into your story here in a moment, I'd love for you to kind of introduce yourself and start by telling us how would you like to be known, and then what else would you like for folks to know about you?
Yes, Paul, I'm so excited to be here. Look, I do the same thing where it's like you have intentions, like I'm not going to ramble, but we have such big hearts. We have so much to share. So I get it. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I would like for people to know me as someone who leads with love. That's big for me. Relationships are huge for me. Like I say all the time, relationships are the true currency. That's the true wealth of life. So for me, people knowing me for someone that leads with love and care and compassion for others, someone who's fun and light to be around, but also someone who is authentic and holds people accountable so that we can all be better, not just, showing up as the most authentic and, being willing to be responsible for my actions, because we all have flaws, things that we need to work on. But if we're not aware of them and we don't have people in our lives that says, hey, like maybe you should look at that a different way or try to do things a different way, we're going to be in this cycle of insanity of continuing to do the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So for me, being a person that is willing to be held accountable, but also willing to hold other people accountable with that same love and compassion and care, not with this idea of, oh, I'm better than you or I'm doing better than you, so you need to, pointing the finger. It's really from a space of love and understanding how connected we all are and how we impact each other, whether we see it or not.
I love that. Obviously, I mean, that resonates with me already. And it makes me think about how many problems that currently exist in the world are as a result of people trying so hard to protect flaws that they don't even realize that they're trying to protect flaws or missed opportunities and so forth. It's like the defensiveness and that sort of thing. I myself have been the most guilty of my life. And so I just love how you frame that, the whole, not afraid to be held accountable as long as it's done with love and, with positive intention and not just to correct me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, we've all had those experiences where, you have those people in your life that want to correct you, but it's not positive criticism. And really, they're not open about their issues or their flaws. So it's like they're trying to cover it up by projecting onto you. So for me, it's about understanding in relationships, we're mirroring each other. So if there's
Mm.
something that I see in you that I'm triggered by or that I have an issue with, 9 times out of 10, that's something I struggle with or have struggled with and haven't dealt with.
Isn't that the truth? In addition to all the other places in my world, every guest on every episode is absolutely a mirror to me. Jalisa, tell us, what else would you like for folks to know about you before we get into your story here in a second?
I am a mom. I like to give that disclaimer on my podcast interviews and different speaking engagements virtually where my kids are around because I'm a single mom. I have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Mm.
And my 2-year-old has this thing with impeccable timing where it can be at the best part. He'll come in and you hear, Mommy. It could be, Mommy. He's still breastfeeding. So it'll be, Mommy, I want booby. Or, Mommy, I just want to give you a kiss. And how can you say no to that?
Right. And as kids will do, like, I think that's up there with my favorite stories, like especially the kids who repeat the things that their parents say in the wrong setting and so forth. But that one is so sweet. Oh my gosh. Well, and so you've kind of put us on notice, right? That at any point during your
Yes.
story, some of the most important people in your life could show up and insert themselves into the story where maybe they weren't necessarily being narrated at the time.
Absolutely. So just like to give that disclaimer so people are not caught off guard by little hands and heads popping into the screen or, little screeches that come along the way.
So noted. Well, you're off the hook because this is going to be audio only. We're not using any of the video, but anything that sounds interesting, well, you just know Jaleesa's taking care of the most important business. So
Yes.
nice.
But other than that, I am very multi-talented, multifaceted. I do a lot of different things, a lot of different healing work. More recently, a lot of the spiritual and energetic work I've been doing behind the scenes, but I'm sharing more of it with the world
Mm,
because I've seen the impact that it's had on my life personally and now just feel called and feel ready to share it with other people so that they can know the capability that they have to heal themselves.
mm,
A lot of times we put the onus of our healing into other people's hands and make it their responsibility. So my mission is to really inspire people to know that they have the ability to heal themselves.
okay.
And we're really the ones that know what needs to be healed, but sometimes we need support with uncovering it and asking the right questions so that we'll say, oh, I didn't never thought about it that way, or no one ever asked me that question before. So for me, it's really just a guide to guide you back to yourself
Mm,
so that you can understand and know your power, the power that you have in order to heal yourself and change your situation and circumstance. So
mm,
yeah, I'm an energy healer, human design expert. I do some functional medicine support with the physical side. I'm a board certified holistic health practitioner. I'm a trauma of money certified professional, Reiki master, a lot of different things. Like I said, I'm multi-talented, multifaceted. I do a lot of different things because I know that when I come across people, we all have different experiences, whether it's a client, a friend, an acquaintance. We all have different experiences and things that we may not know or things that we may, need. And
mm-hmm.
I know it's the reason why we come across each other in our life path. So if there's something I have to share, I'll share it and,
All right. Well, and I know we're going
yeah.
to learn a lot more about you through your story. And I'm selfishly going to say human design is something that I've kind of gotten into since last year. We're not going to make this a human design episode unless you do, but I am curious. Well, first of all, I have to just tell you and everybody who's listening, listen to the Brigitte episode. I don't remember her episode number right off the top of my bat, but she was a guest and she is a human design coach and she was my human design coach. So connection there. What's your human design?
I am a 6-2 manifesting generator.
Okay. All right. Representing. I'm a manifesting generator, sacral, and that's as much as I know when it comes to the chart. I depend on others to tell me. So I think I'm 3-1. I think I'm a 3-1.
Okay.
So, okay. All right. Well, let's leave that in case it's part of your story. So I want to get into your story. All right. Before we start into the 5 questions, Jalisa, the first question I always ask every guest is, as you think ahead to call it, the next 30, 35 minutes or so in telling your story to us today, what intention do you have for yourself?
Um, to just let it flow and be my most authentic self, and to be willing to,
Mm,
share what comes up as openly and freely as possible.
okay. I see your intention and I support that intention. My intention is to create the space for you to be able to achieve your intention. And that in sharing your story with the world today, it will reach people who will see a little bit of themselves in you and your story. It will make them feel a little bit more connected and a little less alone. And in the best of cases, feel more inspired and empowered even to go out and do something that they've been wanting to do.
Yes, I love that, and I'm in such agreement with that.
Let's do it then. Okay, Jaleesa, the first question is, where in your life have you found yourself sitting on a comma?
This was, we talked about these questions before, and I went back and forth with what I was going to share. And I would say my most recent experience with sitting on a comma was when I became a single mom. And prior to becoming a single mom, I was married. I was, building a life with my college sweetheart. It was never, for me, I didn't go into marriage thinking that I was going to get a divorce. I went into it with every intention of, whatever came up till death do us part.
Hmm.
Like literally, that was our hashtag, like till death do us Hardy. And it was literally like that was our intention going into it, regardless of what we had experienced, in our relationship prior to marriage. We had committed to each other. And I didn't realize the level of dysfunction and the level of chaos and the level
Hmm.
of abuse I was experiencing because I was so used to it.
Hmm.
If I tell you my story, you'll be like, "Oh, that's why she could be so content in a situation that on the outside other people could see, oh, that's not right." But for me, it was like, it's not that bad. I made
Hmm.
so many excuses for the situations and circumstances that I was experiencing because it was like, oh, it's not that bad. I've been through worse. I can
Hmm.
handle this. I'm a big girl. But the thing that changed it for me was when I became a mom.
Hmm.
And I realized looking back at my own experiences growing up, seeing the dysfunction in my home, seeing the dysfunction with my parents, how much that impacted me. I have a background in early childhood development. So knowing that from the age of 0 to 7, that really solidifies a lot of our personality, a lot of how we show up, a lot of our habits, a lot of the beliefs that we have, a lot of our conditioning.
Hmm.
So for me, when I had my children and I started to look back at my life, I said, I don't want my children to be 25, 30, sitting in therapy trying to heal from the things that they saw me endure. So for me, I had to make one of the hardest decisions ever to leave my marriage. My children at the time were 2, 1, and 1 month old. So I was literally freshly given birth to my third. My older two were only 10 and a half months apart. So consecutively, I was pregnant and or breastfeeding for 3+ years at that time. So
Hmm.
my body physically had not been given a break. In
Hmm.
addition to the emotional, the verbal, the financial abuse that I was enduring. So at the time, was sitting on a comment because I'm like, am I making the right decision? Is it just the hormones of what I've been experiencing? Am I overreacting? Am I overthinking? Am I doing too much? So I'm sitting there and it was like I was looking at two different worlds
Hmm.
because a part of me was thinking that I was the problem because, you know, a lot of times we take on the responsibility of our situation when they're the actions of others that are contributing to it. And on the other side, I'm trying to see this version of a person that I fell in love with. And I was having it was like a war within myself, constantly trying to figure out the right or wrong direction, or whether I was right, whether they were right, like right and wrong. But getting to this space and place where I had the support that I needed to be able to see clearly, when I found the right therapist, that was when the fog started to clear.
Can I jump in for just a moment and kind of reflect and acknowledge a couple of things? I mean, first of all, acknowledging how big of a decision it sounded like this was, just given kind of the amount of time and the circumstances around you questioning and trying to come to a decision on this. So it sounds like that was just a really big experience for you.
Absolutely. And another aspect of it was I was a stay-at-home mom. I had no income. He was the sole provider for our family. So to make this decision to leave a situation where financially I was comfortable, content, was taken care of.
Well, it sounds like there was a question I was going to ask, or kind of reflect, and anytime I reflect or jump in, by all means, it's just kind of what's coming to me. So correct me where I'm off base, or if it doesn't accurately reflect what you were saying or sharing. When you were describing, I mean, that really stuck with me because of some circumstances in my life. That describing that two worlds and that questioning, am I right? Am I wrong? Am I the problem? Is he the problem, or are they the problem? Right. That swirl and that confusion that happens can be so monumental and so disorienting. And what I think I'm hearing you say, now that you layer that in, so this is an assumption on my part, is that, yeah, there are probably a lot of other things going on and feelings and emotions that you'll share with us. But when you depend on that relationship for not just your family, but also your sustenance, your living, your well-being, that's a variable, right? That's a big variable in the situation that was unfolding. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's like the situation and the level of manipulation, those were some of the conversations that we had. If you divorce me, I'm not paying child support. If you divorce me, I'm going to get the kids taken away from you. If you divorce me, like those types of manipulation tactics to get me to stay and look past the other dysfunction, the other chaos, and the other abuse. It was like, well, what if I can't take care of my kids? What if he does get the kids taken away from me? What if it's just better for me to stay? So I had to choose my heart, the heart of the known and the heart of the unknown.
I'd love to kind of hear from you. I think there's a lot of people listening, including myself, who we can already appreciate how hard that might be for us if we were in that situation, in that circumstance. I'd love to hear, I call this one of the peeling back moments in an episode, because what we don't know is what that was like for you in that moment. You've described it a little bit, but what really was that like to be sitting in exactly that place, having to decide which of the hards you're going to choose?
You mentioned the swirl of confusion. There was so much darkness and fog and just feelings of, at some point, hopelessness. Like, what if I do leave and I can't take care of my kids? I don't have what it takes, because I have been broken down to a shell of myself. And that was one of the reasons I knew that it was better off for me to leave, because I couldn't be the best version of myself for my kids in that relationship, in that environment. And as scary as it was to think about not being able to provide for my kids on my own, or him, doing things which he tried to get the kids taken away from me, What if you succeeded? And that for me, it took a lot of faith. It took a lot of rebuilding. It took a lot of shifting my mindset because there were times where I felt like, well, maybe my kids will be better off without me
Mm.
because of the level of depression, because of the level of darkness I was experiencing. There were those thoughts. And most people didn't know because I'm so strong. I'm the strong one. I'm the one, the bright smile. Only the people in my household knew really like the level of brokenness that I was experiencing going through this situation.
That, I mean, I don't even have kids, so I certainly can't even begin to relate what that's like. But I can't imagine being in a situation where there's even a prospect or a possibility of you losing the most important people in your life, and then having that happen during a time frame where you are feeling so helpless, powerless. It sounds like these are my words I'm introducing, and so disoriented and confused and dark, like you said, that you don't even know what to do to change the situation or create what you want.
Yeah, definitely powerless. I felt like
Mm.
I had going from being such a strong and independent person to being the person that I was. It was like looking in a mirror and seeing someone else. Like I couldn't even recognize myself.
You also, I kind of moved past what you were saying too, which I think it feels like is really important for us to give you some room to kind of say more about that, which is the outward appearances, the putting on a smile. Most people didn't even really know, having to be the strong one. I mean, say more about what that was like for you, and what doing that, or I don't know, like wearing that mask or playing that character, what kinds of things it does to you, I guess, is just the candid question I'm curious about. Like, what does that do to you when you have to put on that kind of an appearance in the type of situation that you've just shared with us?
It was a way of life for me.
Mm.
I mentioned a little bit about my experiences before my marriage. I had been through so many traumatic experiences where I had to learn how to function despite the abuse, despite the dysfunction, despite what was going on at home, despite the unsafety of my environment. I learned to be able to go to school and get straight A's,
Mm.
go to school and still be the one to bring the light and the positivity, to be the teacher's pet, to excel in leadership, whether it was in church or school or different aspects of my life. I was that person that could show up as the leader, show up as the guy, show up as the person to help other people, but to, on another side, be in complete chaos and shambles at home.
Mm.
Be the one that they call the quote unquote rebel or the problem child.
And it strikes me that in both of these situations, or both of these periods of your life that you're sharing with us, there's a level of deferring yourself, setting yourself aside, because when you have to play a character, play a role, you don't really get to be who you are. I mean, is that safe to say?
Yeah.
So I'm asking a lot of questions, Jalisa. We haven't even gotten to the rest of the four, but I'm really curious. Who were you setting aside in these periods of your life? Or what version of you, I guess, maybe?
The version of me that just wanted to be loved and safe.
Mm.
That is why my intentions and my desire for the way that people see me is that I lead with love, because that was one of the things that I was looking for that I didn't get. My mom did the best that she could, but in a broken home, in a broken situation, being broken herself, she couldn't do as much as she wanted to. She couldn't protect me from my own brokenness. She couldn't protect me from the trauma and the abuse that I experienced. So for me, I sought out experiences where I felt safe. And a lot of times they were very unsafe situations on the outside looking in.
Mm.
But to me, it looked safe. It felt safe. It was different from what I was experiencing. And that's how getting into my marriage, it was a different, I thought it was safe
Mm.
because it wasn't as bad as what I went through.
Okay. I think you may have answered the question, but I'll ask the question so you can tell me. I was curious what was the distinction between what felt safe and what actually was safe?
I didn't realize that until recently. I would say, well, probably this year I realized what I was seeking out was safety. Like you would think, oh, she's looking for love in all the wrong places. But coming from, I'll give a trigger warning, coming from being sexually abused by my biological sister from the ages of probably 3 to 13, seeing the dysfunction of my father living with his mistress for the first 5 years of my life, coming home and trying to play the role of father, mistreating my mother. All of these experiences were literally that 0 to 7 age range that I mentioned solidified for me different beliefs. Men couldn't be trusted. People were not safe, whether they were family, friends, or the like. But I had this void. It was like an insatiable feeling of looking for love, looking for safety, because my home base was so unsafe and dysfunctional.
Mm.
So for me, I didn't differentiate the difference between love and safety until very recently, doing the
Mm.
energetic work that I do, uncovering those limiting beliefs that were conditioned into me from that 0 to 7 age. It took a while for me to say, oh, it wasn't really love that I was looking for. I was looking for safety.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted somewhere that I wasn't going to be used or abused. I wanted somewhere I can be all of me, the angry, the upset, the hurt, the happy, the joyful. I wanted a space where I could be all of me. And I didn't realize that space was me.
Mm.
I had to do that for myself. I had to be that for myself.
I mean, obviously, I'm reflecting on my own experience with this, and I so appreciate you being courageous to share these things. And I know you have your own reasons and motivations for sharing, which I so appreciate that you are. And it strikes me that, at this early formative age, which you kind of foreshadowed for us earlier, you were not only forced into adult situations, they weren't even functional adult situations. So talk about stacking. And then, as you already shared with us, like in addition to the other life experiences, the thing you've been seeking, and it sounds like perhaps foreshadowing, you're taking us there, that you have been or are finding is that safety that you were sharing with us, that reclaiming that thing that you didn't have at the beginning.
Yeah. And it's been a I would say a life's journey of really making the messy parts of my life, making it a part of the masterpiece that I am, and being able to use those experiences to be able to shine for others. In a way, I had one of my friends tell me the other day, she said, a lot of people don't make it to the other side of what you've experienced
Mm.
with the level of peace and just the willingness to be able to help and support others the way that you do, the ability to shine despite the darkness, despite the pain, despite the trauma of what you've experienced. Other people have been swallowed up by their experiences. And for me, that's one of the reasons why I share so openly and candidly about my experiences, for people to know that there is another
Mm.
way, that there is a way to get to the other side of it and not identify with your experiences, not identify with the pain, but still be able to use them as a part of the masterpiece that you are, a part of the masterpiece that your life is. I say all the time, masterpieces, the creation of masterpieces require mess.
Mm.
Life can be so messy.
Yeah. Well, and I think what kind of resonates for me is, there are times in our lives where we can look at things, and this is my point of view. This is my opinion, right? That there are times in our lives where we can look at things and say, okay, that happened for a reason, and so forth. But then there's situations like what you've been sharing, which is, I think a lot of people would be hard pressed to say, okay, well, that happened for a reason. And yet you're looking at it. What I believe you're telling us is you're looking at it and saying, yeah, maybe that didn't make sense. It wasn't fair. It didn't necessarily happen for a reason, but I can still draw meaning from it. I can still allow myself to decide how I want to use it and how I let it shape where it takes me.
Absolutely. Because I heard a while ago, they said what it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to choose how you perceive your situation, how you perceive what happened to you, and how you respond to it.
That is actually a good spring point for the second question. And you can kind of go back and forth as much as you want to, but let me ask the second question. And that is, as you look back at this comma that you were sitting on, what did that create for you?
It created a level of freedom and peace that I didn't even know was possible. I mentioned having to choose my heart, the heart of the unknown. The reason why it was hard was because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what to expect, but I believed. And why I made the decision was because I believed that it was going to be better than what I was experiencing. Even though it was scary, because again,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how I was going to financially provide for my children. I didn't know what he was going to try to do on the other side of it. But I knew that if I could see a different outcome, if I believed that things will be better and continue to take it step by step, even in the midst of feeling hopeless, even in the midst of the chaos, even in the midst of the drama, I continue to believe, you know what? Something's got to be better than this.
Mm-hmm.
Something's got to be better than this.
I think it's important to acknowledge you there, because I know there's a lot of folks who might say, and whenever I say a lot of folks, I think that includes me too, but who might say, oh my gosh, you're so brave, you're so courageous. And I talk to a lot of people who say flat out, like, it didn't feel brave. I wasn't trying to be brave. And I think sometimes in this society, we try to make brave be like that thing on TV, and those people do. But it's like, the bravery isn't necessarily like, I'm going to do this because it's going to make me look brave. The bravery is just doing the hard damn thing and not knowing or necessarily even caring what it's going to look like to anybody else. And so I say all that to say, I want to acknowledge you for having been in circumstances that are more difficult than what most of us experience, and being able to come to a place of saying, is this what I want? No, this isn't what I want. The path forward is completely unclear and scary to me, as you said, and yet I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. And I think one of the harder parts of it was knowing that I still loved him. I still wanted things to work. But when you come to the realization that things are not going to work out the way that you wanted them to, that again,
Mm.
realizing that my children and I would be safer and better off without him inside of our home, there was so much, so much of that confusion and going back and forth. Like, I love him. Why can't we just work it out? Why can't things just get better? You
Mm.
try all these different things. You try to fix yourself, quote unquote, fix yourself because you think maybe you're the problem. And for me, it's like, how could I still love and care for somebody who did so much to me? And I beat myself up for it. Like, why do you still love him? It's not like you're unsure, or unclear of what he did. But for me, I love the person. It's not about their actions or lack thereof. I love the person. I love who you're truly created to be, because a lot of times we get connected to hurt people and all they know is hurt. So that's all they have to give.
You tell me if I'm off base here, but this is purely an observation. It seems like, in addition to that, you loved the idea of the person that he could be because, as you shared, in addition to all the reasons that you married him and fell in love with him, again, it's what he represented or what the ideal version of him represented, which was that safety, security, and love that you had made it your mission to find, seek, find, and claim.
Yes. And the ideal of being a woman, you automatically have this pressure of your biological clock ticking.
Mm, mm,
and your families, you get to a certain age, they're like, oh, you're not married yet. Oh, you don't have any kids yet. Oh, so you have older siblings, older cousins, and you see this over and over again. You're like, yeah, I don't want that to be me. I
mm,
don't want that to be me. I need to, that was my thing. I didn't want to have kids outside of marriage. I wanted to be married before I had my kids. I wanted to get married before the age of 30. It was all of these conditionings that I was believing and stuck to that led me to make a decision to get married to someone I knew I shouldn't have. Because the red flags were there, the experiences prior to us getting married were there up to 2 weeks prior to us getting married.
mm.
Where for the first time he physically put his hands on me for the first time. And this was because I realized, what, maybe this isn't what we need to be doing.
Mm.
So it was like I knew, but there were all of these societal conditionings, environmental conditionings, cultural conditionings that made me believe, what, I got to get married. I got to have my kids before a certain age. My biological clock is ticking. Now, looking back at it, I realized marriage really wasn't my goal. My babies were. I always wanted to be a mom. So for me, but growing up with a very religious upbringing, that was the conditioning. Oh, you got to get married before you have your kids. So for me, when he proposed, it was like, oh, well, I've never been proposed to before. So, I was 27. Yeah, I was 27. And so, well, this might be the best that I'm going to get.
Mm. Mm.
So I settled and I accepted a proposal knowing the level of dysfunction and chaos that our relationship was prior to that.
It was a path forward. It was a path to the goal, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Let me go ahead and ask a third question. I know you're in the middle of a line of your story here, so perhaps this will help you elaborate, or you can continue to go backwards as well. But as you look at the comma that you were sitting on, what did you learn about yourself, or what are you learning about yourself?
I'm learning that I don't have to be perfect for anyone, for me or for the outside world. As I mentioned, on the outside looking in, I was a licensed minister doing leadership work in the church, youth ministry, preaching and teaching, doing all of these things. Excuse me. So when I started to share my experience and we were doing leadership work in the church together, so on the outside looking in, people were like, this can't be true. So a lot of
Mm,
people questioned me, like, oh, I had one person ask we were mutual friends in college. So they were friends with him and I. And I was telling them the abuse that I was experiencing. And they're like, oh, I don't see him hitting you. There's this misunderstanding of what abuse is. And even before I really understood, thought that the abuse was physical. Like that was what abuse was.
mhm.
And that was where I would always say, oh, it's not that bad. He's not hitting me. I'm not being physically abused. I'm okay. We'll be fine. I can deal with this. So for me, that idea of, okay, I can deal with this because I can still show up in my leadership roles on social media, in these different spaces, put a smile on, and people think that everything is okay.
Mm. Back to kind of what you were saying before, right? This living in two worlds, not just during that period of confusion, but seems like that's played out as a theme through your story.
Mhm.
What did I write here? Like two worlds, like the outside world, the inside world, appearances versus reality, the character I'm playing versus the person that I am, what other people perceive versus the reality that I'm living. This duality seems to play out a lot in your story.
Mhm. I've always felt like I've been two different people or living in two different worlds.
Mm,
And that's one of the reasons why now, with the work that I'm doing with myself and with others, is to be able to uncover your most authentic self.
mm,
Because a lot of times your experiences will pull you in all of these different directions and make you believe that you need to show up here this way, show up here that way. Don't let the world see your flaws. Don't let the world see what's going on. It was this idea, even growing up, what happens in the house stays in the house. So
mm,
whether it was dysfunction, chaos, abuse, incest going on, it was what happens in the house, it stays in the house. So when you step outside of that door, you don't let people know what's going on inside of your household.
mm,
So I was conditioned that way. So when I got married, it was like, well, what happens in the house stays in the house. Once I hit the threshold, I'm gonna put this smile on, and people are gonna think and feel like everything is okay because I can still show up, I can still serve, I can still excel, I can still get the accolades, do the accomplishments, get the degrees. And people think, oh, she's okay, she's fine, she's strong, she's happy, she still has a smile on her face.
You shared with us, you said, I learned that I don't have to be perfect. What else did you learn about yourself?
That I used to have unrealistic expectations of myself and others. And that came from this idea of perfection, like wanting to be perfect, wanting to show up perfect, and knowing that I can't expect other people to show up for me the way that I show up for them.
Mm,
And I would try to get people to see and understand, like, okay, if I'm showing up for you in this way, in this capacity, why isn't that reciprocated?
mm,
And trying to force and fix situations to make it the way that I wanted it to be. For me, it was holding on to temporary people, temporary situations, and trying to make them lasting and lifelong. So I learned to be able to let go, and that a lot of the things and the people that I was holding on to was out of fear of going back to, what if I never get anything better?
mm, mm,
What if I'll never be enough?
mm.
What if I'm not worthy of more? So for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned is that I was born enough. I was born worthy. I was born valuable. And no experience, situation, or circumstance can take away or add to that.
I love that you got to that place. It is such, I mean, it's such an important point for any of us to get to, and what a gift when you do get there. So, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. Let me ask the fourth question because I think that might this might be a good connection. So, based on what you just shared with us and all of it, like as you look back at the comma that you were sitting on, what has changed for you as a result?
I am the best version of myself than I've ever been before. I actually now am able to have a positive and cordial relationship with the father of my children. I do have full custody of my kids. I am a, I mentioned I'm a single mom, but my children are homeschooled and just they're thriving in a way that they wouldn't have had I still been showing up as the version of me that I was. I've been able to do
Mm,
things like do these podcast interviews, I'm in the process of writing my next book. It's like doing the things that I knew that I wanted to do and knew that I was capable of, but I didn't have the capacity or energy or even motivation to do it. So this version of myself,
Hmm.
but I'm also giving myself grace, giving myself the time to rest, giving myself the time to not rush through things, not rush through life to try to get to the next thing. Like I said before this, like I took a nap because that's what felt the line.
Hmm.
We talked about human design. For me, leaning into my human design, if something doesn't light me up, I'm either gonna delete it or I'm gonna delegate it.
Such an impact. And I mean, what such a journey too, right? Like the shift from where you were in the story that you're sharing to what you're describing is like everything that's changed and the things that you're doing now. It seems like it seems to me like you have found the safety, like you have found the love, and that not only is that love from the children that you have, these little important people in your life, and the goal all along that you said, but also the love from within you and from you.
Yes. And the title of my first book is It's All in Me, My Journey to Freedom and Living Abundantly. And the ironic thing is I wrote that 6 months before I self-published it 6 months before I got married. The concepts and the process of writing that book is what really supported me with my journey outside of that marriage. So
Mm.
for me, freedom and peace look like going within and understanding that I have the capability and the ability to heal myself and change my situation and circumstance by sometimes making those hard decisions, making the decision to leave a situation where I was financially stable, financially secure, but I didn't have peace of mind. I didn't
Mm.
have my sanity. I didn't have the motivation to do the things that I know that I was capable of and called to do. I was not free in any shape, form, or fashion. So, on the other side of it, having the peace of mind and the freedom and the ability to smile with it without it being a mask, it's a completely different experience and not feeling like I have to show up and perform
Mm.
when I don't feel like it.
Mm. That is completely powerful. I was going to say super powerful. It's just powerful. I mean, that's just all there is to say about that. And folks can't see you. This is audio only, but I see you grinning. Your face has lit up. You're glowing. I mean, I can see that coming out in you.
Yeah.
So let me ask the fifth question then, and that is, Jalisa, what does getting off the comma look like for you?
Getting off the comma looks like being present in the moment and embracing that I have everything that I need in each moment, not focusing too much on the past and what I woulda, coulda, should have done, and not focusing too much on the future with what I'm looking for happening or hoping is happening, but knowing that in each moment I'm exactly where I need to be, whether I'm on the comma, before the comma, or after the comma. Knowing and
Mm.
understanding and believing that I'm exactly where I need to be in each moment, being present and getting still and realizing that I am the love that I need. I am the safety that I need. And I have everything I need in order to move forward and do what I'm called to do and be who I'm called to be.
That last part, all of it, and that last part, like I am the love, I am the safety.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wonderful. Well, there's so much more that we could explore with you, and podcasts are a certain time length, right? So let's go ahead and bring things to a close for this episode, and let's give an opportunity for an opening. So obviously there's so much more you can share. You mentioned you've written a book. I know there's a lot of other work that you're involved in. So if people wanted to contact you, reach out to you, follow you, see what you're up to, and follow your journey, where can people find you? And I'll be sure to put all of those links in the show notes.
Yes, the two main places, well, three. I'm on LinkedIn, Minister Jalisa Hardy. The main place where I'm doing a lot of sharing, a lot of broadcasting my events is my YouTube channel, and that's at Jalisa the Golden Child. And then my website is jalisahardy.com.
Okay. Wonderful. And folks should check you out and follow you. And like I said, those links will be in the show notes. The last thing that we do here, Jalisa, before we close, is a section that I call acknowledgments, because obviously what we do here is we share stories, we normalize listening and normalize being stuck and getting unstuck. And so it's all about like lifting each other's voices up. And so your story wouldn't be complete if we didn't give you an opportunity to lift up the voices that matter to you. So as you think about the people in your life or voices that have influenced you, that could be causes or organizations, other creators, or even just friends, family, loved ones in your immediate circle. Who would you like to acknowledge today?
Yes, the two main people. One is an organization, the other one is a person, an organization that really supported me with resources, tools, even a lawyer going through a protection order situation was Hope Works of Howard County. And even now, I'm a part of their choir. You mentioned voices. Their choir's name is the Voice of Survival.
Mm.
So now being able to support other survivors, using my voice, using my poetry, using my speaking to be able to support other survivors through Hope Workers of Howard County. They have amazing resources, community support, groups, all types of things for survivors and people going through different experiences, whether intimate partner violence, anything violence related. So that organization has literally been a lifeline for me even now to be able to get back to using my voice. And then my mom, she's the reason why I am the golden child, because I didn't talk about this, but I'll share briefly. When I was conceived, my mother and father were going through a divorce. They were in the process of getting a divorce. And she got the news that I would be born with Down syndrome. I would be born without a stomach, and my esophagus and my windpipe would be fused together. Getting this news, the nurse said, you know what, the best option for you would be to get an abortion. Because if your baby is to have any chance at a quality of life, she'll need multiple surgeries and all these different things to have any chance at making it, if you're even able to make it to full term, because she had never had a full time pregnancy. So having this faith and belief that, you know what, I'm going to believe for a different outcome. She went to a revival, had them pray over her. And she said the only thing that she remembers is feeling like she was being lifted off of her feet and that God was pouring gold into her stomach. And when she went back to the doctor after that encounter, they couldn't find anything wrong with me. So now, understanding the faith and the belief that it took for her to not believe the outcome, not believe what the nurse told her was the best option, I'm here today. Having the faith and belief in something bigger than me, something more powerful than me. Yes, I do have the power, but it's not coming only from me. It's coming from a source that, whether you call it God, source, universe, higher power, whatever you call it, there's something bigger than me. And my desire is for people to understand and know that, yes, I am the golden child, but you're the golden child as well. We are all walking and talking miracles, and we all have a place in this world. And it's why we're here today, because there's only one of us, and only each of us can fill the role that we have to fill on this earth. So that is why my mom is one of my major acknowledgments, because I'm here because she had a different belief that I would be more than just an abortion.
I am so glad you shared that story with us. And it's so cool, and everybody can kind of take from that what they want, but like it reminds me of the fact that sometimes in the really dark moments, like all you really have to do to look to, like you said, whether you call it God, universe, source, or anything else, like just the fact that you're here and the fact that you've made it this far in your journey, I mean, that is just evidence of, I'm not trying to make it spiritual. I'm just like, that alone is evidence that you are enough and that you're amazing and that there is more to come. It's just a comma.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice. Jalisa, thank you so much. I know, your story is very moving and that there are a lot of elements to your story that may have been potentially difficult to retell. And so I just appreciate you being willing to share this. It sounds like you do share this and you take pride in sharing your story because of the impact it can have on people. So thank you for doing it with us.
Yes, Paul, I appreciate you for having me. I appreciate your platform and just the ability to share our stories with other people because we're in this
Mm.
together.
Ah, so true. That is why we're here. Absolutely. We will follow your story, Jalisa. You have a wonderful rest of your week ahead, and I will look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you.
What an honor it is for me to witness these powerful stories. I hope you feel the same way too. Think about what you learned from this conversation. What stood out for you? What challenged you? What inspired you? And I encourage you to write it down in some form of journaling and reflection. Surprises can reveal themselves to you when you do this. And if you were moved by today's conversation, pass it along to someone you care about. Let's spread the word. Let's continue to build connection. And if you do discover something you'd like to unpack further, book a call with me and let's talk about it. My links are in the show notes. Be sure to like this episode, follow the podcast here on this platform and social media at Off the Comma. And feel free to comment and interact with these posts and episodes. Check out my website for workshops, events, and my sponsor community. I'm covering the costs of production by curating my own sponsors who align with our vision. Be sure to check them out. They're all powerful people and businesses. Thank you for listening to this episode of Off the Comma. As always, keep noticing and keep listening.